I want to touch on the idea of what many like to call walking meditation, which is a term that I don't agree with, as I would hardly know anyone really able to walk in meditation or walking in meditative state. And I mean to know what I'm talking about, period. I definitely would say that when most of the people use that term or expression, I would actually call it mindful walking. And that is, of course, where some people will argue about semantics and the meaning of the words, as also some people would say that meditation is practicing mindfulness, although I would say again that mindfulness is kind of the introduction to meditation, but it's not also meditating per se, and definitely not being in a meditative state. Again, I guess that's where it can become a debate about the meaning of those words. When people say I'm meditating, I would also say that most people in that case are trying to meditate. And yes, they observe their breath, or they repeat the mantras, or whatever, they visualize and stuff, whatever technique they use, and basically they try to calm down the mind, samatha. But there's a difference again between being mindful and managing to stay in a state of mindfulness for quite some time, and being in a meditative state, which I would argue starts with the jhanas anyway. So if you're not in a jhanas, you're not in a meditative state, but you're just trying to meditate, or you are practicing mindfulness and calming down the mind. But then this is again talking or arguing about the definition of the words and the action that one is doing in reality. So again, the first steps in those practices are basically gaining what people call samatha, which again in Asia some people like to debate on the difference, and I'm surprised that they actually, as Asians, Buddhist culture, don't know really the difference between samatha, samadhi, and vipassana, and they often want to debate on which one is what. Or, but it's exactly in those steps. As a lot of people mix up between samatha and samadhi, as samatha would be kind of the calming down part, relaxing and managing to focus. Samadhi is really normally the translated as concentration itself, and that's where you could get into the jhanas, and basically you become meditative really when you manage to keep your mind concentrated. And that is to say that when you have managed to start to keep your mind one pointed, as we say, or focused on one thing, or at least one image or one point, and in the classic traditional way, that will be the breath coming in and out of the nose as a one point, and actually that point or that area as a start should become narrower and narrower as you become better and better focused, or basically as your concentration gets sharper and sharper. then you can narrow down really to one point, and your mind will just stay there. But that is to say that, coming back to my original point, that what people call walking meditation is just trying to be mindful of your steps, right? Of your uh, walking, in a sense of the different steps happening in the action of walking. And again, it's to develop the mindfulness of what one is doing, and ultimately you should have actually that kind of state of mind 100% of the time for whatever you are doing. And exactly why also, because everything is karma, everything is sankhara, and one moment decides the next, decides the next, decides the next. So you should be aware of what you are doing right at that moment, because of what happened in the previous moment and why this happened, and what's going to be the consequence in the next moment. And that is actually mindfulness, awareness. Again, sometimes there can be a debate between awareness and mindfulness, but I guess they're pretty close anyway. I like to use awareness more than mindfulness, actually, but again, it's the common word that has become also like a scientific word, in a way that also now that's become part of the business of spirituality around meditation, because now you find all those mindfulness courses and classes that you have to pay for. Not to mention, of course, those charlatans who will tell you that they can help you reach enlightenment like that, by charging you some money. Or anyway, let's not go there again. But again, back to the original point. So mindful walking is what most people do, and that's okay, and that's a good thing, because that's what you should do as supposedly a practitioner, or spiritual practitioner at least, and meaning to be a meditator. But that's different from meditation, and that's just being mindful of whatever you do and why you do it, and the steps happening within you, between the mind, the brain, to the body, creating the action, the bodily action, and why. But that is the point, compared to walking meditation, or basically being in a meditative state as you are walking. That is very, very advanced, very, very high level, and that means that you have already basically let go of all the control, ultimately, from the mind, from the ego-based mind, and you let Dhamma take over, and the situation is controlling you, and Dhamma is controlling you, actually, and you don't need to have any intention really, or to do something. At the same time, and that's what I'm talking about as an advanced high level state of meditation, in that case, as the walking goes on, relating to the experience of that state of Banga that is mentioned, at least in the Goenka tradition and some other, I guess, where you have awareness of all the vibration of all your body, all the cells of your body in action, and all the energy going on everywhere in your body, because that's what it is, that's what you are. You are just a thermodynamic machine with natural elements, and that's what you call being alive, is because you are just a thermodynamic machine, and which is ingesting carburants and burning and oxygen and producing energy, and that energy is what makes you alive and being able to move and do things and think. So there should be already that constant awareness all the time. And then there is a higher level of concentration that way, that you let Dhamma take over, you have managed to let go completely. So you're just aware, not even mindful, but really aware of all the vibration, energy exchange that's happening in your body at the present moment, each moment. And then, if the situation requires you to move and walk, then you will be aware of the billions of biochemical reactions happening within you from the situation, basically as a physical contact with your mind, affecting your mind as a reaction of sankhara to create a reaction in your mind to start to make a decision, but producing those biochemical reactions that will send a signal all the way along the nerves to the right part of the body to start to move, to contract the muscle and make it move and make you move and get you in motion, and all the steps like this. And if you're already standing and you're just walking, you are aware of those billions of biochemical reactions per second that goes from the mind, being aware of the terrain, of the space around you, sending all those reactions along the nervous system to the leg, to the right muscle, contracting the muscle that is lifting your leg, but you don't decide, and you don't need to decide to lift your leg. Your leg is lifting by itself. And that's the same way as when you are really in a meditative state again, or you get really in the jhanas, when you are sitting in meditation. And that's what some people like to call also the Kundalini, right? The Kundalini energy. So again, you will, they say that it's good if you sit straight and you have your spine straight and everything. But ultimately, if you get really concentrated and you reach the good levels like that, again, your body will straighten up by itself without any effort. You don't decide, you're not in control, exactly because you have managed to surrender totally your mind, your ego, your control, and you trust the Dhamma, and you are just a witness, an observer, but really concentrated properly, exactly getting into meditative state. Then actually your body will straighten up without any effort by itself. And that's the same again. That's because you have surrendered really to Dhamma. You have let go properly. And then the energy is there and it controls you. But you're aware of that, and you're aware of all the processes and the billions of biochemical reaction happening in that instant T, that moment. And that is actually basically being in walking meditation state, or basically in meditative state, walking or doing anything else. And that actually is when you have let go completely, yet the situation or the Dhamma is controlling you and taking over, and you don't need to make any effort or any decision actually, but it's happening. And again, you can be basically witnessing yourself from the outside with awareness doing that, and seeing it happening, but you're not deciding to make it happen. And it seems like confusing or impossible or nonsense to most, exactly because most people don't know what is to be at a higher level of concentration in the high level of jhana, and what is real meditation and meditative state versus practicing so-called meditation, which is more like samatha, to calming down the mind and relaxing and trying to let go, trying to meditate, trying to let go. And yeah, relaxing to a certain level, to a certain degree, and still managing to have a mind that start to focus more or less to a point or something, whatever the technique. But that's where exactly there is a whole difference. And again, that's why the higher level of concentration, the real meditative states, the higher jhanas, not the higher jhanas per se, like the four higher ones, but still being in the jhanas is not very easy, despite many people thinking that they have reached whatever higher level. No, it's not like that. You just become mindful, you just become aware, managing to calm down the mind and keep it uh, quite a bit focused on some things, but it's not the same until you will realize that suddenly you have that real detachment and you become simply really the witness, observer, with merely awareness, and you have surrendered totally, and Dhamma has taken over, and then everything become effortless. You feel the energy, you feel all the energy exchanges, everything that's happening and controlling you, but it's controlling you. This is the awareness of what's truly happening in the world, in the universe, and that reality that you're not in charge. Your ego thinks that you are in charge of your life. Me, this, me, that. I like this, I like that. I can do this, I can do that. No, you're not in charge, of course. The universe is in charge. Dhamma is in charge. The laws of nature are in charge. And that's why when you will manage to reach the ultimate surrender, the ultimate let go, then you can appreciate what is real meditation and higher level of concentration, and then another reality and the insight into our true nature, which is vipassana. Then you get to vipassana really. Before that, it is samatha, and exactly different level of samadhi for different people. So that is to explain as a main example, because it's a very popular practice in many meditation techniques, so-called. When people talk about walking meditation, which I disagree with that term for most people, but I think the appropriate, realistic wording is mindful walking, and that's what most people are trying to practice, and that a few can achieve easily with time. But that's just mindfulness, and that's not let's not mix up between just being mindful and having like really higher level of concentration that gets you into a real meditative state.